But in Georgia, they continue to have voter suppression. There, a top election official in Georgia claims that the state officials at the highest levels have engaged in what is called, quote, long-term assault on voting rights. The report by Allied Progress, a national nonprofit group, found that officials were systematically making it more difficult for mostly minorities, the elderly and the disabled, plus low-income voters to cast ballots, and accuses Georgia Secretary of State and Governor of pushing voter suppression efforts, which include tough voter ID requirements, proof of citizenship requirements, reduced early voting, and strict voting requirements for released felons. The report also says elected officials have made racially charged comments in public and online. Here to talk about this, Executive Director of Allied Progress, Karl Frisch. Karl, yesterday we had Melody Campbell on National Coalition of Black Civic Participation. You have more than 400,000 unregistered but eligible African Americans in Georgia. Latest polling, Georgia right now is a toss-up state. Trump is barely ahead, but that's supposed to be a red state. To me, this is Georgia trying to do what North Carolina has been doing, and that is trying to shave off as many people as possible in order for Republicans to continue to win that state.
Well, and not just North Carolina, right? But what did we find in North Carolina, right? We found internal documents that showed that officials purposely looked for the types of voter identifications that African Americans were most likely to have, and then they targeted those identifications to keep those things from being valid when voting, okay? In Georgia, what we found is that you've got not only these voter suppression efforts that you rolled through in your introduction, but you've got an election administration process from the top on down to the bottom where people have admitted to their partisan motivation. And when they thought no one was looking, they sometimes say in public or on social media absolutely racially abhorrent things. You've got the Secretary of State in the state before the last election saying, if minorities get registered to vote, they could beat Republicans. As if that would be a bad thing for minorities to get registered to vote. The governor, when defending the concept of proof of citizenship when registering. We know that a lot of older African Americans and older Latinos have trouble getting the right documents for proof of citizenship because they weren't necessarily born in a hospital, especially in the South. And he said, he called these people ghetto grandmothers, okay? You've got local election officials, people in the county boards of elections who have said things like, you know, when slavery was ended, we gave them the opportunity to go back to Africa and they stayed. They have nothing to complain about.
Wow.
Okay? You have election officials who posted memes after the police violence in Baltimore and the riots and looting that happened following that, where they posted memes of shoe stores with work boots saying, look what they didn't take.
Wow.
These are people who are supposed to be impartially administering the elections in the state of Georgia.
That was a lawsuit in North Carolina. Is anyone suing Georgia?
There are lawsuits in Georgia. In fact, Secretary of State Brian Kemp, get to know his name because you should. He recently had to settle in court, allowing tens of thousands of people to be registered to vote, African Americans predominantly. It's been horrible, but this is no different. And you want to know the test that we should be applying when Republicans or conservatives tell us this is not about voter suppression, this is about protecting and no voter fraud. Here's the test you do. What was the last thing you did to make it easier for legally registered people to vote?
Mm-hmm.
Crickets.
Drop the mic.
Shamaka, what's up with your party?
I knew you were going to ask me that question.
You should.
Shamaka, what's up with your party?
Look, it's inexcusable. And if you look, I believe over the past 30 or 40 years, we have seen a decrease in voter participation. So I do think it's more beneficial.
Last what?
Voter participation.
A decrease?
Last 30, 40 years. Yeah, you actually have.
You've seen an overall decrease, but among black folks.
Okay, but wait, let me make my point.
Black folks, you've seen an increase.
Wait, no, I was going to get to that, Roland. You didn't let me finish.
Well, come on, it's a black show. Get to us first.
Okay. So you've seen a decrease. I think it's beneficial for elected officials to make it easier for people to be able to participate in the voting process. I think it's alarming when you do look at states such as Georgia, which you saw in Virginia, and even in Texas now, maybe in the next 10 years, a lot of these states that are predominantly Republican are turning purple, which means those states have the potential to vote, of course.
And they don't want to compete.
And so, for whatever reason, the Republican parties in these states are attempting to restrict the
reason.
rights
Go ahead.
of minorities
reason.
to vote.
Go ahead.
So
Okay.
I think it's a bit disingenuous. I think it's unfortunate because I think that it could be beneficial if the party were to go into these communities and say, hey, these are our plans, these are our
I
policies,
think
and we're not
the
doing
biggest
that.
problem here is that you took the motivation and said, whatever reason. There's a reason. It's because of the complexion of their skin and how they cast their ballots.
Look, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get
No,
into
we'll just
that.
No!
But what I am going to say,
I realize it's uncomfortable, but let's get to the truth.
What I am going to say is this. It is obvious.
I mean, I know
it is obvious
Shamika,
that
you Republican,
it is obvious
but you
that
still black. You can
Roland,
go ahead
I'm
and
well
admit
aware
it.
of that. It is obvious that those individuals are afraid that their states can turn into another direction, and I get that.
And maybe
Oh,
the things, the
final comment.
racist, vile things that they're saying online might not be seen as acceptable.
All right, then. Look, we'll keep watching that, folks. We come back with our headlines.